Okay, we are continuing with chapter 4 in Mesilas Yesharim, right? This is the derech knias hazehirus and the way of acquiring zehirus, right? So the last time we said basically, told us that the main driver towards zehirus is Torah, right? Yep. Just awareness brings to more awareness, right? Torah brings to, and then specifically, he told us that specifically learning about like, I don't know how to say it, but the Musar aspects of Torah, learning about things that happened in Tanakh, right? Things that went with that Maisa that happened with all of the great characters of Tanakh, that teaches you how to be, that teaches you, inspires you to be a better Jew. Mm-hmm. Okay, then he said, then specifically, there's a certain contemplation that also brings you to inspires you to be more aware, right? Certain contemplation. But he says contemplation depends on each individual person's level, right? So he's going to divide the level into three categories, right? The shlei, what he calls the shlei me'adas, right? Mm-hmm. People who have complete or perfect knowledge, right? Meaning or perfectionists, right? Then he says level down is I think I called them last time competitionists, right? And then you have the everybody else, right? Perfectionists, competitionists, and everybody else. So, right? So he told us that perfection is a big driver for people who have higher intelligence, right? Because they understand that perfection is something that you want to attain, right? Especially since we saw in the first parak that perfection and dveikus are synonymous, right? The way to achieve dveikus to Hashem is perfection, and less than perfection is infinity away from perfection. So anybody who is inspired is a perfectionist is going to be inspired by the fact that the only way to achieve perfection is to really overcome every challenge and every nisayon, and not to you have relentless pursuit. You can't give up, right? So you have to be always vigilant, right? That's the here's vigilance, right? So you have to be always vigilant. Okay, and he told, and regarding that, he told us that in Olam Haba, right, every person is going to be nichve, is going to be burnt by seeing the chuppah of his friend, right? By seeing the level of his friend. Mm-hmm. Like he says, it can't be regular kina, right? I'm jealous. Why? Because in chapter 11, he says that kina is a foolish concept. Mm-hmm. It's a concept of the fool. Why is it a concept of the fool? Because Hashem gives everybody what they deserve, right? If you're driving a Lamborghini and I see your Lamborghini, I say, Hashem, why didn't you give me your Lamborghini? I'm jealous of your Lamborghini. There's nothing to do. Hashem knows what he gave to everybody, and there's nothing you can do. Your jealousy is only going to make you feel bad. It will not get you the Lamborghini, and it will not, will not produce anything positive for you. So why are you doing it? That's his concept over there in chapter 11. So then, Olam Haba, why is Olam Haba different? You come to Olam Haba, you see this guy, wow, what a reward he has. And look at me, what level I'm in. So that doesn't seem to belong in Olam Haba, right? So that's why he came up with the concept is that no, you're not seeing his accomplishment, and therefore you're upset that you didn't accomplish as much as him. Mm-hmm. You're seeing his accomplishment, and therefore you're asking yourself, why didn't I accomplish as much as I could have accomplished?
Right, your own deficiency.
Right, your own deficiency. Now, which leads me to another question. And this was something that we had unanswered in Derech Hashem, and I don't know if there is really a full answer, but this goes into it all. How does Hashem judge people? Right, meaning, is there only one scale? Meaning every person is judged based on what he achieved in versus his potential, right? Because if you remember in the Hashem, he talked about that different people are born in different stations in life, in different madregas already, right? Somebody whose father was a great tzaddik in the Rosh Hashiva and this and that, so I have a head start, right? So my head start allows me to, let's say I was born into, my father was a billionaire, now I'm a billionaire, right? With my inherited billions, I was able to build 20 yeshivas, and in 20 yeshivas had hundreds of people learning Torah, right? All because of my schus, of my ability to, right? Now you can't tell me that that's not going to give me reward in Olam Haba. Of course it will, right? There's no question about it. But what did I do? I mean, yes, I could have sponsored a baseball team, and I sponsored yeshivas. It's true, but okay, it's a one-time decision. It's not like, wow, now I'm so close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that so. Meaning, we don't fully understand, right, the whole cheshbon of how Hashem does his accounting, right? So, so do we say that it really is just the question is a calculation, which is, he says that line kind of in Derech Hashem, that it's all combined with it all gets drilled down into one scale. What you could have achieved versus what you did achieve, right? So when you're seeing somebody else being ahead of you, so maybe you understand now. There's only one reason that he's ahead of me, because vis-a-vis his potential, he accomplished more than I did. So we really are all on the same scale. So if anybody is ahead of me, it's only because he came closer to his potential, not because he could have been a shoemaker. Who was, barely illiterate shoemaker. But as far as his potential is concerned, he achieved 99.9% of potential. And me, I could have been a billionaire Rosh Hashiva, right? But as far as my potential is concerned, I achieved 0.1%, right? So we're like miles apart, right? So that's one way of looking at it. Or maybe there's more to it. Maybe there's multiple scales involved at the same time. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in his infinite wisdom, can calculate multiple scales. I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay, that's that. So the other question that I wanted to ask is this motivation, right? We're going to see the next level of. Okay, let's first read some text, I guess, and then we'll discuss. So that's where we're starting from. The competitionists, the next level down, right? These are the people that are not motivated by pure perfection. Let's achieve perfection. Okay, what do I need perfection for? Okay, so I'm not going to achieve perfection. Some people like to chill. I'd rather chill and take it easy. I'm not going to achieve perfection. What do I need the stress for, right? So how do we motivate those people to push as hard as they can, right? People who are lower level than this, their inspiration will be according to their understanding, right? Their discernment. And it will be in respect to the idea of kavod, of honor, which they desire, right? In other words, and if they're not seeking perfection, so what are they seeking? Honor. Everybody wants honor, right? And that is, it's simple to anybody with a sense of intelligence. This is where he addresses somewhat this point, that the levels in the true world are not divided, but rather in accordance with a person's actions. Right? So Olam Haba is all about achievement, right? But again, he doesn't say achievement vis-a-vis my potential or achievement on some absolute objective scale. A person who's going to be raised over there, right, elevated over there, somebody who has a quantity of deeds, greatness of deeds, more than his friend, right? And somebody who has less actions, less deeds, he's going to be on a lower scale. So if so, that's how it is. How could a person close his eyes from his deeds? Right? If my whole Olam Haba is dependent on my deeds, so why am I running my deeds on autopilot? Or why would I minimize my effort? If afterwards, right, if I understand that when I come to Olam Haba, I'm going to have tsar and pain from the fact that I no longer can correct what I messed up, right? So meaning the only reason why I'm not pursuing my all of the spiritual things in this world is because my future is not really before my eyes, right? if my future would have been clear to me, what's my future? Olam haba, and therefore I'm going to see I'm on level 9, the other my friend is on level 900, right? If I would sit, meaning I don't know how to say this, but right, my physical station in this world, which is very much pained by different levels of COVID, right? Take the idea of my physical problem with COVID, right? Export it to Olam Haba, which really is not physical, right? So what he's doing is a little bit a trick, meaning you could say, well, in Olam Haba, I'm not going to care about COVID, right? So meaning if the whole idea is, listen, Olam Haba is a real thing, visualize it, right? Visualize it, and then if you visualize it, you'll understand your mitzvahs are going to get you there, so work on them.
Right.
But I'm not motivated by mitzvahs.
Right, he's hiding the
right?
reward.
I'm motivated by COVID, right? So you want me to apply my motivation of COVID, which is an Olam Hazeh experience, exported to my Olam Haba experience, right?
Rechannel the COVID towards achievement.
So in a certain sense, what do we call this idea? Really what we're doing is, right, we're utilizing Olam Hazeh flaws to achieve spiritual goals, right? So it's as simple of mitoch shelo lishma bo lishma, right? If you're gonna motivate yourself shelo lishma, then you're gonna come to lishma. So the only thing, what about the previous level? That was my question. The previous level of a perfectionist, right? Is that also a shelo lishma, or is that considered lishma? If I'm seeking perfection, right? Is that considered lishma? So I'm gonna go with that. It's not considered lishma. Why? Even though he told us in the first chapter that what is perfection? There's only one perfection, dveikus, right? I'm sorry, Hashem is the only perfect being, and so dveikus is the only way to achieve perfection. So therefore, me chasing perfection is lishma, because I want to achieve dveikus. But no, meaning there's different reasons, right? Meaning you could have two people, both can be chasing perfection, but one will be chasing perfection for the sake of dveikus, and the other will be chasing perfection because I want to be, I want to be perfect.
Right, but
it might not be
different perfection. That's
what?
Then they're not chasing the same thing.
Well, one has. I think they're chasing the same thing.
Right,
but their motivators are different. So I'm just saying. My assumption is that a person who's here, we're in the first level of Avodas Hashem. A person who's over here in Zehirus. My assumption is that even the more intelligent people, the Shleimei Hadas, they're still on the level of Shelo Lishma. That's my personal, right? Because really, meaning I know that there's a level called Tahara, okay, purification, chapter 6, level 6 in the whole in this 10-step program, right? So over there you could be zoicha to Lishma. If this progression, my assumption is that anything that happens on this level of Zehirus is Shelo Lishma. Okay, fine. All right, so that's that. Okay, so but anyway, this is definitely a clear Shelo Lishma, right? I am pursuing kavod, I'm pursuing honor, and I'm just utilizing my drive for honor as a way to motivate myself to do more mitzvahs, right? Good. So v'hina yesh mehapsoim. There are those foolish people that they want to really lighten their burden, right? They say, why do I need to tire myself out in all of this elements of chassidus, saintliness, and precious and separatedness, right? Why am I giving up, sacrificing my olam hazeh? I have to constantly be vigilant. Right? What do we need this for? Why can't we just live your life? Just live your life. It's simple. I mean, this is everyone. He calls these are the foolish people, but this is you, me, everybody. Right? I mean, the truth is, right? I mean, logically, I can understand that it behooves an intellectual being to do everything on an intellectual level. Right? I can understand that in a logical, right? And I can understand, but at the same time, I feel like every second I pick up my hand, At a certain point, I start thinking to myself like I'm becoming like a robot of some sort, like where everything is an algorithm and a whole like thought process, and it's just too much. It becomes too much. Sometimes you just want to pick up your feet, watch a movie, and relax, right? Like, right?
Right. Meaning, if you constantly analyze every single step you do, make sure you do it l'shem shemaim. And now I'm sitting here and I'm scratching my head so that no longer anxious and I'm able to concentrate on learning better. Right.
Right. It feels like every sense of life has been taken away from you.
On one level,
On an
yes,
emotional
right,
level, right? On an intellectual level, you understand,
right.
but you've reached a madrega of a real human being, full of enlightenment and perfection, right?
Right.
So,
this is where we
right.
heading.
Ideally, if you appreciate how that intellectualism, enlightenment brings you, like you said, lihasaneg al Hashem, right, to enjoy and to derive bliss from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then technically, yes, that every element can then become an element of simcha, right? So all of that hyper-intellectualism becomes pure joy.
Right. Until then, it lisanik all my food.
Right. Right. So again, so these, I'm saying these are not. Anyways, it's the first level, and even here we're all already struggling. Is what I'm saying. Okay. Anyways, but there are these fools who all they want is to lighten their burden. Why do we have to struggle so much with this? It's going to be enough as long as we don't get into Gehenna. We're not going to be Rishayim. We're good people. We come to davening. We do a little tzedakah, a little chesed. We're good family people. Look at the other terrible. Look at society around us. We're way ahead of society, so we're good enough. So we're not going to force and push ourselves to go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim of Gan Eden. If we're not going to have a great chelik, a great section in the VIP room in Gan Eden, we're going to have a small section. It is enough for with this. We're not going to make our burden even heavier just because of this extra levels of Olam Haba. Okay, whatever Olam Haba we get is good enough for us, right? I'm not sure why he's being so verbose over here, right? Again, this famously that the Vilna Gaon said that there's not an extra word in Mesilas Yesharim, certainly in the first three whatever sections. So over here, he there's like a half a paragraph explaining the mindset of people who want to lighten their burden, and we really understood it from the first sentence. There are those people that want to lighten their burden; they don't want to push themselves too much. Right. Over here, he goes, we're not going to go into Gan Eden, into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. It's too much the Chassidus and Prishus. As long as we're not Rishayim, we're not going to have a Chela Godel. We're going to have a Chela Kotten. Like there's restatement of the same idea in 5 different ways, right? So I'm not sure why he needed to elaborate so much on it. I'm not sure why. 1 second. Okay, I'm not sure. Unless, maybe for him, like he really had a hard time understanding these people, so he needed to really bring it out. I don't know. Like, who are these people? Anyways, okay. However, we will ask them one question. Will they be able so easily, lisbol, to tolerate in this world, which is changing, which is fleeting, that they would see one of their peers more honored and more elevated than them, and it dominates them, or one of their servants, or those paupers that appear, kind of beneath and lowly in their eyes. Are they not going to be pained by this, and their blood will not boil inside them? Right. In other words, right, we have a hard time right? You have two people up for a promotion, right? And somebody, your subordinate, meaning I was up for a promotion, and somebody promotes my subordinate over me. I'm going to be very much bothered by this, right? So again, this kind of points to this question, this question that we asked, that maybe that at the end of the day, the judgment is not about what your potential is, but about how close you came to your potential, right? So therefore, you could have you're the billionaire child of a Rosh Hashiva, right? And you have your Nebuch illiterate, some pauper, and when it comes to Olam Haba, he's like up there, and you're like in his feet, right? So how could you allow yourself to do this? So you wouldn't allow you would your blood would boil in this world if you were to see this. So why wouldn't you have the same reaction in the next world? Elavad loivada, of course not. Kihine eineinu harois, our eyes see kol amal hodam linose al kol mishiyuchel. Every person wants to elevate himself over somebody else. Okay, I mean that's crazy, but that's right. Meaning, we really don't have, as human beings, we really don't have a way to measure success except relative to some marker, right? And generally speaking, that marker is somebody else. We might not actively saying, look at that loser, look at me. Okay, I mean that's a very low level. Hopefully we're not on that level. But at the same time,
we pick a role model.
What?
We pick a role model.
No, even that, I don't think so. I don't think it's just about a role model. I think generally speaking, all of us have a sense of self-satisfaction, right? Right? It's very hard to live a life where you're completely dissatisfied with it, right? So just imagine, you're born ugly, overweight, poor, unintelligent, constantly criticized, without any sense of control in life, right? If all of the things that make human beings feel some sense of accomplishment or some sense of satisfaction, imagine a person not having any of it, none of it, right? So that's a very difficult life to live. I mean, that's why a lot of people are not able to live it, and they take some people who, if a person really has no sense of satisfaction from life, people end it, right? People end it when they go into some crazy state of depression, and they cannot get out of it. They and they become addicts of all sorts of things, right? So every one of us, whether we like it or not, we need some sort of sense of satisfaction to go on. We don't realize some of it again, but if we were to be honest with ourselves, if we have a good job, if we have a good family, we might not process it at all. But the fact of the matter is that reality gives us,
right.
And where do we get that sense of reality? Only in comparison to somebody else, because the fact that that our job is a sense of satisfaction is only because I know somebody else who doesn't have. I have kids, I know somebody else who doesn't have. We might not actively think about it, but at the end of the day, all of us are naturally kind of pre-programmed to assess our surroundings, right? And so so that's built in. It's very wired into us that the reason why I want to get a better job is because I want to have more satisfaction. Again, where do I get satisfaction? By being elevated over somebody else. If I'm not elevated over somebody else, then how do I know this is a sense of accomplishment? How do I know to be happy with it? Right? If I'm alone in the woods and there's nobody to show off to, it's then am I going to get that PhD?
Right.
Okay, right. So
so there's got to be benchmarks somewhere.
Right. So kol amal ha'odam. So all of our efforts, lihinosel kol mishiyuchal, is to elevate over our peers, over anybody who we're able to. And we want to place ourselves into some echelon in life that's high, the highest possible echelon of life. And this is what the Kahela says, it's jealousy of our friends. Right? All the whole world runs on jealousy. And if we see a person going up and getting ahead, but you are left behind in the dust, that what is he saying over here? Meaning he only bears it in as much as he has no control over it. Because he can't prevent his peer from getting ahead. But at the end, his heart is churning within him, right? So so since we see that this is the reality of the world, since it's so difficult for people to just sit still in a lower state in this world, where so you're gonna make this guy makes $100,000, this makes $200,000. At the end of the day, like, what's the difference? So he has an extra steak twice, once a week, whatever, right? It's a very fleeting and false sense of achievement versus Olam Haba, which is obviously an eternal sense of achievement. So this elevations that we have, these levels that we have in this world, is very false. So how could we think that we're going to tolerate? How could we tolerate that people who are lower than us, that we're going to be lower than them? And that's going to be in a place of hamayla amitis, of true elevation, and eternal eminence, right? Eternal honor. Even though right now we don't fully understand the greatness of Olam Haba, so that's why we're not too, we have a strong sense of it, right? It's an intellectual concept that is not an emotional concept, right? While on the other hand, if I get promoted, if my subordinate gets promoted to a job, there's an emotional reaction to it versus not just an intellectual reaction. But in the future, we're definitely going to see it, and it's going to pain us. So people who pursue kavod should definitely understand the idea that they will be very much pained by the lack of kavod and olam haba that they are missing out on, right? So they're intentionally limiting themselves in the world to come. So why would they allow that to do that? Because they have to realize that they will suffer greatly as a result, right? So again, like we said, so you're transposing the olam hazeh, pursuit of kavod, onto an experience of olam haba, right? There is nobody will tolerate this. So this that they're saying to themselves, don't worry, we don't need the greatest chelak of olam haba. You have to say to yourself, right? If you feel that way, you have to say to yourself, no. What are you talking about? That you're fooling yourself. You're fooling yourself by thinking that you don't need such a great chelak of olam haba. Because if you were to realize what the future holds and how much relative to this world the mile of the next world is, so then you would drop everything and realize that the pursuit of kavod that you have in this world, you would certainly direct it towards the pursuit of kavod in the next world. So they will not. Nobody will allow themselves then to lahakal mehem chomer ha'avoda, the stringency of the service of Hashem. Ela pitui koizav shemifati yitzum Hashem. It's pure pitui, pure. What's the word? You say pitui? Enticement, right? It's a pure falsehood, a false enticement of their Yetzer Hara. V'loidover amiti klal, and it's not a true idea at all. Okay? Again, I have a hard time a little bit of the terminology because it's true. What he's saying is that me lightening my burden in the spiritual matters is a pita of Yetzer Hara, right? Because it's fooling me to thinking that I don't need it, where in reality I do need it, right? But at the same time, so what's the antidote? What's the antidote that he's giving us? He's saying, fool your Yetzer Tov, right? Or fool your Yetzer Hara. I'm not sure which side of us we're fooling. Fool your Yetzer Hara, let's say, to take the kavod of this world, which is the Yetzer Hara tool, and help, right, and direct it towards your pursuit of these accomplishments, right? So the thing that's preventing you from accomplishing is laziness. So kavod is an antidote to laziness. So use the kavod of olam hazeh as an antidote to your laziness in olam hazeh, right? Okay. So what's the problem? The problem is, just like your Yetzer Hara has been mefata you, is enticing you to move away from avodas Hashem. Your job is to use your same Yetzer Hara to entice you to go towards your spiritual activities. Right? Use the same tools. So again, it's mitoch shelo lishmo bo lishmo. Right? That's I think what it is. Although it's slightly different. Again, we can discuss mitoch shelo lishmo for forever. I mean, it's a complicated concept, even though we just assume it. But it's complicated exactly how it works. What does it mean? Meaning, whatever. It's a complicated concept. I don't think we have time to really go into it. We definitely don't have time to go into it, right? But so this might be even different than mitoch shelo lishmo bo lishmo. But the point is, you're using the tools of Yetzer Hara to get you to overcome. Okay, fine. So we're gonna have to stop here, even though we didn't even finish this section, and I thought we'd finish the whole
maybe we can
parak.
start off with the head of the section, the Harei Lecha, next time.
Okay, we'll have to stop here. Okay, all right.